Well, hello everybody and welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to make some mince pies, but with a different type of pastry than I would usually make. So I've made mince pies on the channel before, and I'll put a link to those mince pies below this video. But for this version I'm going to use this tin, which is smaller than a muffin tin and it has straight sides, and I'm going to put the pastry in the bottom, the mince meat, and then more pastry on top, and the pastry I'm going to use is the same version that I use for my Kanos and Rondos, those Dutch almond cakes, and this is a really lovely pastry, so I think it should work very well, and it has baking powder in it, and it tends to rise up into a nice flat, hopefully, ring. So for the ingredients I have 300 grams of cake and pastry flour, which is 2 2/5 cups. Then I have 150 grams, which is 3/4 cup of soft brown sugar. I have 9 grams, 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, 225 grams, or 220, which is 2 sticks of unsalted butter. I have a little beaten egg, which I'm going to use to brush over the top, and I have here 200 grams of mincemeat. Now I may need more than that, but I start off with 200 grams. So what I'm going to do is mix the baking powder into the cake and pastry flour. You could use plain flour, you don't have to use cake or pastry flour, but that's what I'm using. And then I'm going to put that into this large bowl of my immersion blender, and I'm going to add the butter into that. Now this is cold butter and I've cut it into cubes. And on top of that I'm going to put my soft brown sugar. And then I'm simply going to blitz that until it forms breadcrumbs and then begins to clump together a little bit. And I can see that's just beginning to clump together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tip that out onto my work surface, but first of all I'm just going to put some plastic wrap onto that, because I want to wrap it in plastic wrap to chill it later. Carefully take that off the blade. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that together in my hands into a dough. I don't want to overwork it, and I'm dividing it into 2 because I'm going to wrap it into 2 pieces. So that's one piece. That's two pieces. So I'm going to wrap that up in two pieces of plastic wrap, and I'm going to chill it for an hour. Then I'll come back and we'll roll it out and fill our mince pies. Well, I have my oven preheating now at 180 Celsius, 160 Celsius with a fan, 350 Fahrenheit, and I've taken the pastry out of the fridge and it's chilled. Now as I roll it, it may crack a little bit, but that doesn't matter, we can push it back together. And I have here two cutters. This one is 7 centimeters, which is 2 3/4 inches, and this is 5 centimeters, 2 1/4 inches. This will be for the bottom and the smaller one will be for the top. So I'm just going to roll this pastry out to probably about 1/4 inch. That's okay, and then I'm going to cut out circles like that. Oh, I'm getting a stack of them there. What I'm going to do is put those into the holes of my tin, and I've made them so they're just slightly larger than the base of these holes, so that it will actually go a little bit up the sides. With traditional Kanos you don't have to do that, but because this mincemeat is slightly more liquid than you would use, you would have when you're doing Kanos with almond paste, I'm just creating a little rim that will allow the liquid to be contained. So with those 12 rolled out, I'm going to roll out the other half of the pastry to create 12 tops. Now this pastry will make more than 12, so it can be chilled again and rolled to create more. And with that rolled, I'm going to cut out my 12 tops. And then with the tops rolled out, what I'm going to do is take about a teaspoon or so of the mincemeat and put it into each hole, and with the filling placed into the centres, I'm simply going to take the top and press it down onto the pastry below. So that will actually form a little bit of a dome with the filling that's there, but it doesn't matter. It may well level off. They usually do, the Kanos. And then once we've got them all pressed down like that, I'm going to take my egg wash, or my egg should I say, and I'm just going to brush the top of each one. Now at this stage you could, if you wanted to, sprinkle some caster sugar or demerara sugar on, or you could do that once they're out of the oven, if you want to. And then they're going to go into the oven and they're going to bake for 25 to 30 minutes. The pastry should rise, and hopefully, I mean, I've never done these before, this is just an idea I've had, but hopefully they should rise nicely and be a nice mince pie. But I'll take them out of the oven, I'll let them cool in the tins, and then I'll turn them out of the tin and come back and show you the results. I baked the mince pies, the Rondo mince pies, for 25 minutes, and they've turned out quite nice. And then I rolled out the excess pastry, and I used a bit of extra mincemeat and made some in a bun tin, a mince pie tin. So that's those there. So they've turned out quite nicely, and I'll have a taste. It's nice and buttery, and you can see the mincemeat in it. These are not filled as much as the mince pie ones, simply because it wouldn't hold them like that, but that does taste wonderful. I do love this pastry, so I think that's a very good alternative to the traditional pastry that you use on mince pies. So that's going to be it for this recipe. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, give me the thumbs up below the video and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there will be an eye that you can click on, and that will take you to the recipe, and I'll put a link to that below the video, as well as the recipe for my original mince pies. And I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future, so until then, happy baking.